Hi, my name is Elena Tennant. I am a playwright and student at Ohio University. And this summer I've been interning with MAP. So for World War II weekend, we put together 3 performances that are done in the first person. We're calling them living history performances. They're like one-person plays. And this is our third one. This is our last one. And this is Nadine Harris Bluhm, who was actually one of the founders of MAPS. And she has her own display downstairs in the gallery. So you can go visit her afterwards. And this is going to be performed by one of our tour guides, Melissa.
Well, I appreciate y'all coming today, and I'm going to ask you to bear with me because of the heat and the way everything is set up outside. Do you mind if I remove my flight jacket? All right. It's like it's just a tad warm. Well, my name is Thelma, but most everybody knows me by Nadine because that's the name I prefer, is Nadine. And of course, everybody knows that my middle name, okay, was not really mentioned much. I grew up in an era where you were just known by your name. Mama called you, you knew to come. I want to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about who I am and what I did and where it brought me to. So the specs will come on for a few moments. You know, for me, where would it all start? More importantly, one of the things I really want to bring out is this. I said, if you ever have a goal in your life where you thought if you had the expectation to perceive it, you could go ahead and pursue it. Flying was something I wanted to do. I was from Altoona, Kansas. That's where I graduated from. And that's where, for me, my life started. You see, after I graduated from high school, which was clear back in 1940, I aspired to go ahead and get my civilian pilot's license. I knew that that would be the first step for me to achieve the goals that I had set for myself. And then I went on, and I thought to myself, what could you do besides just being a civilian pilot? Well, why don't you teach? Yeah, that'd be fun, right? Okay. So I started teaching in a ground school. Now you have to understand, when you teach in a ground school, you're not flying. You're just teaching. But it was a start. It was where I was going to start the rest of my life. I knew I wanted to fly. Flying was like a good pair of gloves. You put it on and it feels right, it fits right, and you know it's right for you. And so after I started doing some of the things I did teaching in ground school, I was asked to go off and teach a group of Navy cadets. These Navy cadets was at the what we called the William Jewell College. And it wasn't, again, all about flying. It was teaching these young cadets. And I started thinking then, there's something more than just teaching. What could I be doing as a woman, as a civilian pilot, that could make a difference? So the next thing I know, I was asked to fly an important airplane called the AT-7S. That's unique in itself. Flying then became normal. Flying for me was something I said, this is where I want to spend the rest of my life. And things began to change in our world. Believe it or not, when the war broke out, they put the word out that they wanted women as pilots, not to fly into combat zone, but to go ahead and ferry planes. And so therefore I thought, this will work. Why not? I could fly for the United States Air Force. How awesome would that be? 25,000 young women set off to achieve those goals. And it was rough. And no offense to my male counterparts sitting here today, but you made it even harder for us women to achieve that. You made it that it wasn't supposed to be a woman's job to come and fly an aircraft, especially for the military. But 27 people in my little circle said, let's do this. Let's do this. So we stuck to it. And of course our male teachers, and they were all male teachers, made it rather difficult. So the 25,000 who came in and we raised our hand, we gave our dedication and our commitment. Only 1,830 would survive. Every hour of every day, those of us who made the grade studied. And we studied hard because not only did we want to achieve our goal, but we wanted to achieve the goal that was set before us, which was to ferry these planes. And I'm proud to say I got to fly 12 different kinds of planes. Oh yeah, 12. And I do remember the one flight pilot, you see they sat behind you. It's very intimidating, gentlemen, as a woman to be flying an aircraft and having somebody behind you barking out stuff. I got this, I got this. And when we finally made the grade and we got that okay to start ferrying the planes. We had this little thing amongst us lady flyers called finales. Finales was our nickname for gremlins. These little tiny things that would happen on our planes. Maybe the canopy on the plane didn't quite close as tight as it should. Or maybe since these planes were just rolling off the assembly line and we got to fly them for the first time, you would look down and maybe one of the gauges was not working right. So you would do that little knuckle knock. Come on, come on. Gremlins, get out of the cockpit. You're not welcome here today. And we would fly our missions, ferrying the planes to and fro. The sad side of this is what a lot of people don't understand with WASP was we lost 38 of our sisters during the war. 38. Was there any talk about that at the time? But we were close, just like these flying squadrons. They would get close to each other. Well, us women WASP, we were close. We were a unit. We were one. And every time we would hear a plane went down and one of our fellow sisters was on it, it broke our heart. But I bet you didn't know a lot of the sidelines to that. If a WASP went down, especially out of country, to get her body back home, the family had to pay to bring it home. And they were not allowed to drape the American flag over her coffin. Why? We stood as a unit and raised our right hands. We were part of the fighting Air Force. No, we weren't in a battle zone. But by golly, we got them planes over there. And when one of the planes had to be reconned and brought back, who brought them back? We did. And we were proud to do it. Yet were we recognized when we lost one? As time went on and the war came to an end, we were called in. We're standing there in front of our commander. And I remember looking at the rest of the girls, and we're standing there with our shoulders up like this because now you see, we felt we got our wings. We're going to get to serve in the United States Air Force. How cool is this? I'm going to live my dream. Unfortunately, that was not the speech we were given. We were told Thank you, ladies, for your service, your stick-to-itiveness, your commitment to fulfill the missions to the very end. But now you can go home. The program is done. You can birth your babies and bake your bread. Ha! What? I remember looking around and there wasn't one dry eye of a wasp. Our dreams come crashing down. Just go home? What about Tommy Tompkins? I remember somebody saying that. Do you know who Tommy Tompkins was? She was a WASP pilot who was having trouble with her canopy when she was to deliver the Corsair and kept coming back to land to tell the mechanic there's something wrong. Finally, after 3 attempts, she said, just give me a piece of wire. And she pulled the canopy shut and wired it. She flew out from LA to meet up with the rest of her squadron, never to be seen again. And to this day, Tommy Tompkins, an American USAF WASP, is still missing. As we disbanded and walked away, you can either give in, give up, or you can go on. And I came back home, and the next thing I know, I'm living in Alliance, Ohio. And I wanted to start a school to train and teach, but we just, no pun intended, couldn't get it off the ground. There wasn't enough money and students. The interest wasn't there for females at this time. But I never gave up. Why? Tenacity, perseverance, but goals and dreams and aspirations. And then I got the phone call that there was an organization that was going to start a military museum. Military Aviation Preservation Society. MAPS. You see, even though I had 7 boys and 1 girl, married my husband Norman, who just happened to be one of my flying students, I realized, keep your civilian pilot's license, continue to soar and do the things you enjoy, but more importantly, keep history alive. For we know we learn from history. My history as a WASP, men's history, no matter where they served, no matter what you did during the war. You know, the WASP were kind of like the Air Rosies. Needed for a short time? Oh, the men are home. Go home, Rosie. We don't need you no more. Yet some of us survived. And that is why I was so passionate for MAPS. Hearing the stories being told over and over again of our American heroes who fought on the front line, who paid the ultimate price, and then the Rosie stories, the survivors, and the WASP who helped form the history that would follow their passions, setting the stage for women today to be Air Force pilots, to be Navy pilots, Army pilots. You could be more than just a nurse. You could be a pilot. And you can make history. And it's up to each and every one of us to keep that history alive. The incidentals of my life, the things that happened, all made me who I am today, a proud WASP who served her country, did it with passion, love, and perseverance, and it lives here at MAPS today. Thank you.
You want to tell them a little bit about your scarf, just while you're up here?
We're going to date myself here too. I entered medical school in 1985 and took that to the American Red Cross Military Services to work with our military on the medical side. But I was going through a program at Malone College, which is now a university here in Stark County, and I was taking effective communications for emergency medical through the military. So whenever you see that infamous, and I'm still certified today, the Red Cross, that was your governance for that. So I'm in this course of effective communications, and the professor, a few days before our graduation, came in and handed each one of us an envelope and said, "Do not open that envelope until I tell you." They're like, "Oh, okay, what's going to happen now?" And so at his command, we all opened our envelope. My name on the envelope inside was Amelia Earhart. And he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, you all have a famous person you're about to portray." And I felt kind of slighted because a girl two across from me got Clara Barton, who was one of the angels of the battlefield during the Civil War, and she's the one that paved the way for what I did later. But no, I was Amelia Earhart. And my dad loved to fly, and my dad was a volunteer here at MAPS at approximately around the time, about 1992, when I started finishing my courses. And so I get this thing, and I'm supposed to be Amelia Earhart. My dad said, "You need to come and meet Miss Nadine Bluhm. She sits on the board at MAPS, and she comes into restoration when we're working on the planes." And he said, "She likes to walk in and go, 'Okay, boys, what are we doing today?' And he said, 'But I know she knows Amelia Earhart. She talks about her.' So I came up that day and met her. A wonderful, remarkable woman. And she don't talk at you, she talks to you. You know, there's people who talk at you, "Yeah, I need you to go ahead and get this job done." And then there's people who talk to you and say, "Could you please help me do this?" And you feel connected, and that's what Nadine was. She was a connector. She wasn't as stern as she came off. And so I said to her, I said, "Could you mind if I interview you? Do you know anything about Amelia?" She said, "Young lady, what was an organization club that she started?" I said, "Oh, the 90 and 9s. She goes, "Yeah, yeah." She said, "Yeah, for a short time, I was with the 90 and 9." I said, "You were?" She said, "Yeah, and Amelia was not a good pilot." No, she wasn't. She said, "But she had tenacity." She said, "What did she go off to do that she didn't like?" And they said, "She went off to be a nurse. She was working in Canada at one of the military-based hospitals." She said, "Yep." And I said, "She came home and told her mom, 'I'll fly a steel bird one day.'" She said, "Now get this, young lady. Like I told you, flying was my glove. Amelia's glove was flying. She wasn't the best, but she proved to the world she could do it." She said, "So your outfit, which I wore today, was very, very good, but where's your flight scarf?" And I said, "Well, ma'am, and you got to understand, eBay was just coming onto the scene at that time. We did not have Amazon and all the other good things you got today." And I said, "Well, ma'am, I'm sorry, I looked everywhere and I can't find a flight scarf." And she goes, "Hold on, kid." She left and walked around the corner and came back, and she threw this around my neck. And she said, "There you go, girl. You're complete now. Go conquer the world." So I went a week later, and we performed the mini play at Malone, which was open to the public. I did that, Of course, I get the accolades from mom and dad and husband. You did a great job. Oh, you made a great Amelia, the whole 9 yards. And I come up here on a Tuesday afternoon to bring Miss Nadine back her scarf. And she said, well, kid, how'd you do? And I said, well, we haven't got our final grade yet. Well, I think you did a pretty good job. And I go, you were there? She said, girl, my scarf was in the play. And I'm like, but you came? She said, yeah, I did. She said, never forget what passion you have and how it can carry you through your goals and aspirations. She said, many times I was ready to throw in the towel, but then you start remembering why you wanted to fly. She said, remember why you want to serve those who are injured mentally, physically, and emotionally, and never accept no for an answer. She took the scarf out of the bag and put it around my neck, and she said, sorry, wear this, carry this. My first deployment was with the 101st Airborne Division. As they say, the Screaming Eagle's the tip of the spear. And I carried Nadine's scarf with me. That's the woman. That's the WASP. That was Nadine. Thank you.